Good morning and happy Friday. So glad you all are here. My name is Phyllis Newbill. I'm an associate director in one of several centers within ICAT. A couple of housekeeping things before we get started. As usual, we are streaming online right now, so good morning to those of you who are watching online. So you all in the room should know that we are streaming online, and this will exist online afterwards. There are snacks and coffee and tea over here, so please enjoy those. The way we're able to justify having snacks and coffee and tea each week is that we have a sign-in sheet, so please sign in when this clipboard comes around. Let us know who you are, where you're from. If you are faculty at Virginia Tech and PDN, or Professional Development Network credit, is helpful to you, one, sign up for that. There's a QR code on the sign-in sheet. And two, check in with me and say, hi, I'm here for PDN credit. I've got a few of you already. You may have gotten an email. But if you need that PDN credit, just check in with me about that. If you're watching online, glad you're here as well. Also sign up and then send me a note, either through the questions or an email, whichever is easier for you. Let me know that you're here. In the way of announcements this morning, the Hokie for a Day field trips have just started this past week. We still have some openings, though, later in the semester on Wednesday mornings. If you have a great tabletop experience that you'd like to share with fifth graders on a Wednesday morning between 10 and 12, come talk to me about that. I would love to get you signed up. Okay. This morning, we have the wonders of technology. It's really great. So Meredith's got some things going on at home, so we're glad that she's able to join us via Zoom. Good morning, Meredith. We're so glad you're here. I'm going to turn it over to you to tell us about this ICAT project.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I'm Meredith Drum, Associate Professor in the School of Visual Arts. I'm sorry I can't be there in person. I had a family issue, and thankfully Holly and Phyllis and Brandon are making this possible. So thanks to all of them. Just a quick story that I just thought of when I was in South Africa a number of years ago practicing Zoom. It was maybe 10 years ago, and I tested the Zoom in the big theater while people were coming in. I just tested it with my mom in France, and she was talking to me. And then in the background, it was up big on a screen like this. My stepdad walked out of the shower, had it up from the shower into the room, and everybody could see him fully nude on the big screen. So anyways, I know I'm big up there right now, so I'll try not to repeat that performance. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. Maybe Phyllis or someone could just tell me if you see my images. Do you see them?
Yes, we do.
Thank you. Okay. I'm here to present my collaborative project, RRM, Revolving Red Monuments, a mobile media augmented reality sculpture. RRM combines four-dimensional virtual animations with poems about war. It is intended as virtual graffiti. Oh, and here's me in front of working on the project this summer. It is intended as virtual graffiti for the Soviet monuments in Bulgaria, most of which are abandoned and covered in physical graffiti, as opposed to my virtual graffiti. I co-created RRM with 8 Bulgarian artists and Russian-American artist Nikita Shokov. Nikita is a graduate of the School of Visual Arts MFA in Creative Technologies program here at Virginia Tech. It's been a pleasure to work with all of them, the Bulgarians and Nikita. When you open RRM on your mobile device, you're surrounded by a virtual carousel. It's an orange or kind of golden carousel, which you see here, with small versions of 9 sculptures. Clicking on the carousel activates one of the 9, and the sculpture descends on top of you or near you. They're quite big. The sculptures change as you move through and around them. The sculptures were made by Bulgarian artists Albena Beva, Eva Davidova, Slava Savova, Elena Kaldova, and others. In addition to the visual, sound is important. As you watch the sculptures animate, you hear poems about war by Wisława Szymborska, Zivka Baldacheva, Paul Celan, Ilya Kaminsky, and others. I'm going to play a short video of RRM and use in front of several Bulgarian socialist monuments. You will hear music by composer Andrea Williams and a poem by Jivka Baldacheva, read by her daughter Eva Davidova. Brendan, are you able to play the video?
Yes, it's happening now.
The Nuclear Cemetery, Distressed Poem by Zhivka Baltajeva. Under my feet, the nuclear cemetery blooms, scents of spring and a blackbird on the quickened branches. Compressed sound waves and rarefied matter, as if someone breathes me in on a forgotten flute. No backdrop light, a mutant melody between the jagged peaks of the universe's harmonica. A lethal cherry drunk with heavy water, beaten by the zealous scenery of the local paradise. On the squeaky bench, an angel with leukemia imagines a voracious genesis in the nuclear cemetery.
Back to you, Meredith.
Thanks. Were you able to hear the sound on the video?
Yes, we were.
Great. Okay, so the user's experience changes each time RRM is opened. The app's mechanisms shuffle the order of sculptures and poems. I included this unpredictability as a nod to the tension between Bulgarians who value these monuments, those who are ambivalent, and those who want them destroyed. RRM is enlivened by the strange potential of public art. While political regimes produce public art as ideological mechanisms to intimidate and indoctrinate the citizens who live with the architecture, these same sites are excellent platforms or stages for activists to stage protests and defiant actions. RRM's collaborative virtual graffiti follows this rebellious tradition. RRM began during my artist residency in 2022 in Bulgaria, supported by CEC ArtsLink. CEC ArtsLink was founded in 1962 with a mission to build mutual trust between citizens of the US and the Soviet Union. The organization has since sponsored hundreds of exchanges between the countries, sending artists and curators from the Soviet Union and Soviet blocs now the former Soviet states to the US and vice versa. My reasons for applying to CEC ArtsLink residency and for making this work are messy. Growing up in the 1980s with socialist parents, I was attracted to Soviet imagery, even as I learned of the brutalities inflicted by the Soviet political regime. In general, I'm fascinated by dissonant public spaces. Between 2019 and 2022, in Virginia and neighboring southern states, I worked on a project about Civil War monuments. Without doubt, I'm in favor of their removal. I want to see them replaced by new public art, museums, and educational spaces that allow us to understand fuller narratives of our dark history and think about how we might dismantle the racist systems that surround us. For a range of reasons, I needed to take a break from thinking about the Civil War monuments as I felt too close to this history. That is when I went to Bulgaria. Now I'm ready to return to a focus on monuments in the US. I'm starting a new collaborative virtual graffiti AR initiative as commentary aimed at a range of political public art across the US. And if any of you are interested in collaborating, just get in touch with me. Hopefully I can present another Playdate about this new project next school year. RRM is on the App Store. Here's a QR code if you would like to try it out. And thanks. That's it. Back to you, Phyllis.
Great. Thank you, Meredith. I appreciate you sharing this, and I love the, thanks for sharing your story about it as well. So we've got time for questions. So if you're online, be sure to put those in the questions link. And if you are in the room, just wait for me to get to you with the microphone. What questions do we have? Okay. Let me go here first, and I'll be back.
Hi, Meredith. I'm curious about your process for sculpting. Could you tell us a little bit about how you've sculpted some of those digital creations that you've shared with us?
Great, thanks. I mean, just with Blender and Maya, but it's a good question in the sense that it allows me to tell you a little bit more about the collaboration. So a few of the artists I work with, like Albena Beva, she actually was probably the reason one of the main reasons I went there, as well as my friend Eva Davidova, who I knew previous to going, both of them knew previous to going to Bulgaria, but they both created their own sculptures in Blender. And because they're like me, they're digital artists. I think everybody else actually just gave me an idea or gave me material to produce the 3D thing. So there's a flag in one of them, and that was actually a real flag in real life, and it was made out of scarves that the artist's grandmother had worn during the Soviet occupation. There was a big sphere that you walked into, and inside you saw neon or replications of neon red text that said, "I'm safe." That was actually just a neon sculpture in a dark space, and so the artist and I decided to create it as it appeared. So, yeah. So, and then it's using Unity to put it into with their XR, kind of plugins and outputs, and then Xcode to export it to the phone or to create it as an app.
Great, thank you. Would you say your name?
Sure. Hi, Maya. My name is Heather. I'd love to hear a little bit more about some of your work, your upcoming work here in the U.S., some ideas you have and what you're motivated by.
Yeah, no, thank you. Is it Terry Eagleton that said that capitalism plunders the sensuality of the body? I'm probably quoting that wrong, but I think that technology also, like techno-capitalism, plunders the sensuality of the body. And, we're stuck with our phones for better or for worse because of work usually, and, friendships. But as all of you know, they really take us away from the places that we are. Of course, that it's weird when you're in a restaurant and you see a couple and they're sitting and they're both on their phones, something like that. Or when you're in a public space and a lot of people are drawn away from the public space and into their phones. So my initial interest in doing something with public space and augmented reality is to try to bring the sensuality, maybe that's an overstatement, but to bring the physicality of the body back into the experience of the phone in space. And so with the pieces I've made with this, and this working this way started many, many years ago with my friend Phoenix Taves and my partner Mitch Miller. But the idea of using your phone to walk through these virtual sculptures within a physical space was this idea of like the small screen, like pushing through to a mix of virtual big sculptures and big public spaces. So that may be a way of me avoiding telling you about the next project. But I as soon as I saw Trump's call for sculptures for the Garden of American Heroes or whatever he wants to call it, I immediately wanted to start working on this new version because because I couldn't apply to that. Like you have to show your background, anyways, they would never have accepted me if I'd applied. I don't even know if it's still going on, but so this one would be kind of like a response to that, like a garden of this sort of, perverse or critical sculptures to be seen against public spaces that, say the mountain in Georgia with the Confederate monument, or Monument Avenue, if it's still called that, in Richmond, places where that have served ideological regimes as places of oppression and intimidation in the U.S.
Thank you.
And I'm looking for partners, so if anybody's interested.
I don't know if you can hear me walking across the room, Meredith.
Yeah, I can see you.
Here
actually.
comes the next question.
That's a great segue, actually, to my question about looking for partners. I'm wondering if you could say anything further about your collaborators and your collaborative process. I can't tell if it's virtual, distance, in person. Maybe that's.
Yeah, do you mind saying your name? I meant to ask everybody to do that.
I'm Lisa McNair. Nice to see you.
Okay, yeah, I can't see you. You're like a little person. Hi, Lisa. I know you. Absolutely. Well, in Bulgaria, it was in person. I went there. They paid for me to be there a month. It's a very generous residency. Margaret, who's in the audience, knows the former director, so she knows a lot about it and has participated in some of it. It's a wonderful residency. I think it's going through some changes, but there's also a residency, if anybody's interested in Eastern Europe, at the Flux Factory now. They're kind of doing some of the some stuff in Eastern Europe and with Russia. In the Ukraine. Anyway, so yes, in Bulgaria, I was there in person and was able to, meet the artists in person. And then I've been back. I spent so much time in Bulgaria over the last 4 years. Like this summer, I was there for a month with my husband, Mitch, and then I had been there in December the year before. So I was in person. So, when I first went in the summer of 2022, I was working with the gallery in Sofia, Structura Gallery, which is amazing, but unfortunately is closed now. But she gave me a list of artists I could connect with, and one of them was Albana, who I had known previously, and who has a gallery in Sofia. And so then I would, write to these artists. Not all of them would write back to me, and then meet them for coffee or, a walk, and and we would come up with the idea together. So, and not all of them worked out, in terms of just sort of some, maybe the collaboration kind of petered out. Actually, I think that only happened with one. Most of them worked out, and I could have added more. It's a little difficult working with that distance, as you can imagine. So I'm excited to be back in the US working with people. But yeah, I've done collaboration here in the US for 20 years or so, all over the country. And I prefer to be physically with, whoever I'm working with as much as possible. And then, of course, a lot of the collaboration after you meet physically can happen online, even if you're in the same town or city, but it's sometimes more efficient just to send emails and files. So online.
Great, thank you. I love the layers of technology and monument. I'm now going to Eric Stanley.
Hey, Meredith. How's it going?
Hey, Eric.
So I'm wondering if you could talk about the relationship between rebellion and safety. You're providing a safe space that's virtual. How we can transfer an act of rebellion into this safe space.
Yeah, that's a great question, Eric. And, I guess I'm just going to challenge one thing before I sort of answer it, which is I don't actually think phones are a safe space because of how destructive mobile technology has been in many ways to our lives. For instance, maybe most intensely with young people. with social media. So I don't think of phones as a safe space, but I absolutely totally know what you mean within this context, that it's not like people are out there with, exposing their faces and their bodies, with signs, I mean, right now, of course, is a hot time it's always a hot time, but in the US, with the protests in Minneapolis, that's a very, very unsafe space to be out there. And it's so shocking that we had 2 citizens killed by the ICE recently. Horrible. So yes, absolutely. It's a much safer space in that sense. For instance, like in Iran, it would be a safer thing. But of course, there are some limits on that too, right? But yes, I mean, I think that's a great question. And it's also a little bit with Bulgaria in a certain sense, it's a little bit like of like a lot of these places are really sort of dormant now. I mean, yeah, I don't know if I can answer your question. I mean, it's absolutely, you definitely hit the nail on the head, and that was kind of part of the idea. I don't know if I thought about it as safe space, but more like rebellion that could be mobile, and have the sort of playfulness of animated virtual sculptures, which I think of them as like having this kind of potential that you can't really have. I think it's kind of like a corollary, or it has a relationship, I think, in a aesthetic visual way that I think is interesting. So I'm not answering your question, but it's more just it's helpful for me. It's provocative for me to think about the next one. So thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alicia. I wanted to ask, how effective have you seen your virtual graffiti been at changing public opinion so far? I've noticed that you have a mobile app, and I wonder if you've seen any people posting on social media or any trends going on online?
I don't know. I mean, I absolutely value that question. And I know we have to stop soon. I think as an artist, I tend to think in a more abstract and kind of fluid and sort of almost personal way about making work, even though I'm working in a sphere that most people think of as a more measurable one, right? Companies are extremely interested in, the efficacy or the impact of their mobile technology on people. And, and a social program, right? If this was purely, or if I had a partner that was kind of more interested in that kind of thing, like a sociologist, who studied this kind of thing, that would be more of a component of it. But since and that's actually something I'd like to incorporate more with the next, or, I always say I want to do that next time, and then I never really do. But I think it's partly because that's one of the dangers of being an artist that works with political, that makes work that's socially provocative or politically provocative, as I often get this question, and then I'm like, oh, because sometimes I almost because my intentions in a lot of ways are more playful and aesthetic and formal and experimental and definitely rebellious, as Eric's used that word, and less sociological. And I know that's sort of like I'm trying to eat my cake and, make whatever it is, have my cake and eat it too, or whatever. But I just have to say I'm not a sociologist. And so I haven't really followed that, although, some of the organizations I've worked with do. I just haven't been that good about following it. And, in some ways, I'm more interested in the relationships I build with people. So I'm more interested, and so I'm continuing those friendships with the artists I've worked with in Bulgaria, including a lot of people who I didn't end up collaborating with. So I'm continuing those dialogues. And for me as an artist, that's the more rich place of impact. Is those particular experiences, and on a kind of, oddly enough, on kind of a smaller scale.
I love that. Thank you. Other questions in the room? And if not, we will carry on. Meredith, thank you so much for sharing your work and your philosophies with us. I'm not sure, I have to look the right direction. I'm looking at you, but here. Is that better? Meredith, thank you for sharing your work with us, and the work that is to come. I love the connections and the layering art, the playfulness, and thinking about these kind of bigger questions. Please continue conversations. Please enjoy more pastries and coffee and tea. And we will be back next week with more of the same and another great topic. So thank you again, and I hope everybody has a great weekend.
Thank you.